Hello, my astrology friends and family. I'm here with the incredibly talented astrologer and therapist and coach, and I don't know how many more behind to put. Um, Marianne from Australia, and she will talk to us about alchemizing the difficult aspects in your horoscope, especially the squares. Hello, Marianne.
Hi, Lada. How are you?
I'm excited. When you told me the topic, I was like, great. I want to hear
Yes,
about this process of yours.
yes. I downloaded this whole alchemizing system around Christmas time and put it out to my clients, and everybody jumped on board because they get a reading and then they get a session. And so my intention,
You
sorry.
downloaded it. You're kind of psychic as well, intuitive, and all right. Wow.
Yeah. So like when I go on your Facebook and I do my lives with, people's birth dates, when I was on the radio for 10 years doing it, I could just tune in straight away. And so my intention today is to help your beautiful audience to have some real faith and hope that we can alchemize, change, transform their fears, doubts, worries, their charts into something quite phenomenal.
Wonderful. That's very hopeful rather than feel doom and gloom. Oh, I have Saturn square Venus out. Always be unhappy in relationships and so on.
Exactly. And my chart would be one of the most challenging. So, I noticed over the years as I was growing up, a lot of astrologers would go, "Oh, oh my goodness, you've got a really difficult aspect here," and it makes somebody feel hopeless, like
Makes
this
you
is
feel
my
like
life.
the worst human being, as if you've done something horrible in past lifetimes and you deserve anything bad that's happening to you now.
Exactly. Exactly. So I have like a three-step approach where I look at all numbers. To me, ever since I was little, this is how my gift was developed. It means something. I used to doodle infinity and lotus flowers as a little girl for years. I'd see things. I'd tell my parents the red phone box, and they'd tell me, what are you talking about? And the next minute the police would ring, and one of my older brothers would be in an accident, and he'd bashed into a red phone box or something like that. So it was really quite scary for them because they were very religious. So I have to make sense of the world through numbers, through frequency, through science. And so this is why I'm so attracted to astrology. And when I look at the science behind all modalities, this is the first gift we've been given. Here's a roadmap. Here's an emotional map. Here's a psych map. Here's a soul map. And then we've got to take that on board, that it is a soul map and it is a spiritual, there's a depth of spirituality here. So that's the second thing I look at. And then thirdly, the psychological aspect of it, the approach to the psyche, which is the mind. Because just like if you've had one bad experience as a little one, the I'm not good enough is born, right? And then we go through life trying to seek approval, the ego gets born, and then we get lost in translation and we create survival stress. That's all we're trying to do is get through the addictions, get through all of our fears. And so the first thing I do, if you want me to show my chart, for example, promise you won't laugh. So my chart's quite interesting. And you'll see here, the first thing I do when I look at someone's chart is I go straight to the moon, because the moon is your emotions. The moon is your feelings. The moon is your progression of your frequency. And so straight away I look at a number. So I'm Scorpio, so I feel deeply. 13 degrees. Okay, so there's a karmic attachment to this moon. And then I look at the 40. So my job in this life is to seek is double 4, security within, not without. And so then I go straight down to the North Node, because this will give me a North Star where I'm heading. Now, some people might say, oh, you got Cancer there. That means that you're supposed to have lots of children, be nurturing. I was anything but. I had great trauma trying to be pregnant. So I've never been able to deliver a child in this life, but I had a lot of trauma around that. Now we've got 28. Now 28 is the I am number of 1. You must stand in your power and learn to feel and express your feelings in this life. Well, I'm an emotional intelligence expert as well. So this is took me years to fight through, doing personal and professional development to actually collapse and understand the nervous system is what's driving it. Then 15 here. 15 is a really interesting number in my when I'm reading somebody, I can see where they've been divorced, where there's a separation. 15 is like the sword. I am 1, must find balance, and it equals a 6 into the heart chakra, into the home, into the family, into all of those things. So those are the two most important that I first look at. Yes, you can see it in the second house, Gemini. So I'm a chatterbox. I make all my income through media. I was number 1 in Australia in a media company in my earlier life.
Wow.
And this is where I need to, like when you look at this, 0, and the 11 is community. I had to learn to listen so that I could grow. So great coaches learn to sit and be present and listen so they can feel what's going on. And the only other thing I'd mention here is, of course, as you can see, 7th house Scorpio. So all relationships have been traumatic until now. So late bloomer. And here with Scorpio Neptune, 15 degrees again. So divorce, delusional in relationships, not seeing things how they really are. And yeah, so interesting thing here. And then I would go down to somebody. So I'd read through all of this. I would see their childhood. Their 4th house is most important for their childhood for me, because I can see that, especially with Mars and Leo. My mother was a Leo, and she was my biggest trauma wound. And so then I would go down to the person's chart in their squares and things like that. So I've stopped sharing now, Lada. We can, yeah. And so then I would go down into their squares and see energetically, I can feel, okay, so you've got something squaring your moon. We've got some serious trouble. We've got something squaring your North Node, your ascendant, your 4th house, whatever it is, especially in oppositions, we know, I can feel into the beliefs. Okay, this person has come from trauma. They've come from a mother wound or a father wound, and most people have, this is our whole journey. And so how do we then bring them into a session and make them elevate their self-worth? So the first thing I do then is to go through their belief system. So they'll get a recorded reading before the session a few days so they can digest it. The feedback is always phenomenal. Oh my God, you know exactly how I feel, like stuck in relationships, having the same patterns, major addictions. And so then we come online and then I'll go through their belief system, and I do 3 things generally. And one is we'll start with some tapping to get their vibration up. And then I will go through a timeline therapy where it's a spiritual process. I'll take them back. It's also a scientific psychological process. And we'll go back and to the inner child, and we'll re-script and reformat that part of their life where the first wounding happened. That changes their whole life like dominoes. And then we may do a quantum healing if there's a lot of past life or a generational trauma there, and that is incredible. Yeah, so that's really the process, Lada, and I just want...
Can I see an example, for example, maybe on your chart or something, of a difficult aspect and how you transformed it through your own process? Like how, especially that kind of reframing where the trauma might have been, that you talked about, that you said that it really brings...
Absolutely. So look at my squares, Moon squaring Venus.
I can't see there. It's sharing. It's sharing my astrology. Yeah. I think maybe you need to share a different window.
Okay. Not quite sure which one I'll do. I'll try this one. Can you see that?
Okay. Yes. Perfect.
Okay. So I've got Moon squaring Venus here.
Yeah.
Now here's the interesting piece. I look at numbers. So we know the square is a difficult aspect, as people say. So Moon being emotions, foundations in how secure I am with the mother energy, with business, which I went into business by myself, and when I was 30, major corporate business, I was in fetal position, fearing how I could cope. It's at 1 degree here. So that is I've got to stand in my power, learn to stand in my power. A master number, 33, to follow things through, to value myself equals a 6. And then the 14, 5, learning to communicate how I'm expressing. And so, and also this is the challenge with females of authority for me.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And then men as well. Have we got the father, Saturn? And as your dear friend that passed away, talks about 18 degrees, I've got Saturn at 18 degrees.
Yeah. Oh, wow.
So there's so much trauma here that I had to overcome. So what I did consistently is personal development, learn how to speak my truth, be authentic. Overcoming fear is the main thing I had to do in order to walk my master walk, stand in my power. Now, here's the interesting piece. Mercury opposition Pluto, I had to stop pretending and be authentic. So I can spot someone pretending a mile away. And then Venus squaring Neptune is all about, how I'm seeing the world. And I've got to ground myself a lot, especially being Pisces, especially being Scorpio moon. I've got to really ground myself and learn how to be practical when it comes to business, love, money, things like that. And so I've been able to overcome all of these things. Now, when you've got a lot of oppositions and squares, the nervous system doesn't want to feel that, or you don't want to feel it in your mind. So this is where addictions flourish. So I have to smoke because that's control. I'll smoke. So I smoked for years. Then I have to seduce the nervous system by drinking alcohol. And then there's a belief there that you can only have fun if you have addiction. And then the sugar binger, all of these things come from all of these fears of I can't cope.
Yes, it's overwhelming. Feelings are too strong. and for example, I saw that your moon was with Neptune square Saturn, and you said your mom and Mars in the 4th house, your mom was one of your biggest, let's say, educational, karmic lessons. How did you reframe her role in your head so you don't blame her and hate her? Because
and that took see, the beautiful thing where I'm at now, I've done it all those processes. So now I've packaged it into a beautiful framework for people to come to terms with things like that very quickly. So one of the things I do in this session, as I had to do, is I looked at her life, and I looked at her past, and I looked at her trauma. So our parents, who are any parent that's traumatizing a child, especially as much as I got given, is the dark angel, but also to recognize that it's a traumatized child acting out in their adult body. You know, she had so much trauma in her childhood that I wasn't aware of until I stopped and looked. And even my father, their self-worth story was very low.
And what if someone doesn't know what their parents have gone through? How do you help them reframe?
It doesn't matter, because I can reframe it in psychology as, so Lada, what do you think your mother felt like as a person, you know, and to open up those that curiosity, and what sort of person beats a child so badly they bleed? What sort of person? And they'll go, a terrible person. Okay, and so what do you think happened to them for them to act this way? Oh, they must have, you know, people don't wake up and say, I'm going to be an asshole.
Yes, I'm going to beat my child till they bleed. Who says that? No one starts being a parent with this.
Yeah, so there's mental illness there. There's possibly they've come from chronic trauma, self-worth issues, and the father is also quite strong in the rigidness of beliefs in Saturn, like money doesn't grow on trees. All fathers taught us that, you know, you have to work hard, all that Saturn language, you know. And it's like we take these beliefs on, and until we wake up and break through and go, that's his story. Not my story. I'm creating my own. Thanks, Dad, for giving me those foundations, but don't need it. Thank you. And so, yeah.
Wow. And you're starting. Yeah, sorry.
Sorry, no.
And you're starting, you said, like a course, so you're starting this kind of offering on February.
Yeah, so I've just Christian, your brother, my hero, is he does so much for me. I love him. He's uploaded the alchemy package. So what you get is $100 off my whole fee. So you get a recorded reading first. So I go through and see everything about where you're at. You can ask me a question or two if you want. I can focus on your relationship sector, whatever you want. And then once you've digested that a few days, we make an appointment and we have a session on Zoom. And so that's like so cost effective. And then, of course, I've got the Master Your Addiction, which is your addictive behavior course starting. I think it's on US Sunday coming up. And this is a really intimate course. I normally get, you know, like half a dozen or more people, and we're not even talking about the addiction. We go through into all the causes. And the biggest cause that we all suffer that nobody really focuses on in the nervous system is survival stress.
Yes. Yes.
So when you were little and you were yelled at, or you were told you weren't good enough, or you felt like you were a burden, or you were bullied or beaten, or whatever the thing was, or you came from a broken home, this little body goes into, and the adrenals lock in survival stress, goes up to the brain and says, shut down, otherwise you'll die. So the brain protects the body from having a nervous breakdown almost. As a little one. And then you have these beliefs, because we're born in ego, it must be me. Yes. I'm the bad person. Yes. Yes. And then when we're older, and say somebody wants to start their own business and they know they're talented, they go into fear. I can't do it, because that survival stress comes up. So when I unlock that, most people's addictions just drop away just in that first instance.
Wow. Just by realizing, because a lot of
people... no, we do tapping, timeline therapy to get to that space, to reformat that edge, rebirth that little one, It's a really delicate, beautiful, effortless process. And then the next, with there's 4 sessions of that one. And, then we go into getting into that practical brain. The other emotions will come up, the self-worth story will come up, and we clear it all. That's the whole point. And then I tell people not to stop their addiction while they're doing the course. Let it just stop. And the last thing they do is we pick a commitment date, because the body's now ready. Body's
so
ready to
prepare
say
the mind. And just like a lot of now therapists, they focus on like, oh, okay, you have addiction problem, you have underlying depression, so you go on antidepressants, so the supplements our life, but they just address the chemical thing. And you say that if you make the person realize in their mind and subconscious, something unlocks those hormones that have been locked, that have constantly create adrenaline or nervous energy, so their body suddenly feels calm, and they don't feel the need to self-soothe anymore in those ways.
Exactly. And another thing I'm giving your AstroladaOfficial family is anybody that books anything with me over February, March, they will have free access and be able to choose any one of my video courses.
Oh, wow.
And I've just created EFT for kids. If you want to learn how to tap out their anger or their tantrums or anything like that. And in Australia, a lot of therapists are now all learning and using EFT. They're using it in schools as well for anxiety for children, learning disabilities, obesity, ADHD, all sorts of things. It's so phenomenal because it changes the molecular structure and the belief system.
So does the teacher or the parent tap on the kid? Because I'll be with from them, or they tap on themselves?
It depends how old they are. If it's a little baby and it's not sleeping, there's little points you can tap on and talk. And if it's a little kid, I had my cousin's, she's got grandkids, and she had her little niece over, and she watched her and she was tapping. She goes, "What are you doing?" She was 6. And she said, "I'm tapping, so I'm a good girl." She said, "Where did you learn that?" She said, our teacher at school taught us how to tap to feel like a good girl.
Wow, they're applying it at school already? That's brilliant.
Yes. And it's probably my most successful course on Udemy. And it's just thriving. And I also have one on your site called EFT for self-worth. And so you can tap on each area of your life, and you go through and desensitize the nervous system for anything that's playing out that's blocking you from feeling, really valuable in those areas. And your whole life changes. I mean, what you change inside changes outside, right?
Wonderful. Thank you. One of our light workers, Marianne. Thank you for the work you do, for the downloads. And obviously, I would much more trust someone with 100 squares and oppositions in teaching me about how to transform than someone with all trines. That is,
Yes. A lived experience. Yes.
Okay, just a quick question. I have 1 square in my horoscope, Moon square Uranus. What would you say about that? That I'm an anxious person all the time. Like since
the degree?
24.
The degree?
The moon.
24.
24, 20, 28. 24. Yes, 24 is the first degree. Yeah.
Yes. Okay, great. So in that, it's a fear of change, sudden change, too much, too fast, too soon. So you need to be in control. You've probably got an Aries somewhere in your sun or ascendant or something. And so so if you look at all astrology, if you looked at Aries, it's about instead of being first, instead of telling, the lesson in Aries esoterically is to break through and be present. So when you've got Uranus squaring your moon like that, 24 degrees, 2 is breaking the cycle of feeling codependent to feel safe, and 4 is security in the home. So equals a 6. So it's learning to come into your heart space, 6. and be really present. So up your meditation and know that everything out there changes. So your challenge in this life is to overcome the inner security of uncertainty.
Wow, I'll have to think a lot about that. Thank you so
And
much.
innovate. Uranus is innovate. So how can I innovate? As soon as you innovate, your frequency goes up. Self-achievement is your mantra. Self-achievement is our self-worth. As soon as we achieve something, we're like, yes, got the energy. Yeah.
Oh, that I'll have to rewatch that word by word to write it down. Thank you so much.
And it's normal. It's normal for everyone to have fear. We all have it, but it's the irrational fears that you're gifted in your chart to overcome. So Moon square in Uranus is definitely one of them. How can I feel safe and secure in my body? So another thing to do, Lada, is for everyone to focus on their nervous system, breathing, meditation, yoga. How can I get in the body and feel safe? Because this is my haven, right? Yeah.
So hard for me. Meditation, breathing, being present.
I remember years ago when we first met and you said to me, I'd been to a shaman and I came back and I was in my kitchen and I just started watching your channel and my guidance said to me, you need to be on Lada, Astrolada. And I thought, oh, so I emailed you and you said, oh, I have to test you first. And I did you a recorded reading and I said, I think you're either pregnant or about to be pregnant, because I felt morning sickness and you were shocked because no one knew you had just found out.
Yes.
You said, okay, you can be on my channel.
Yes. And I was like, what? Oh, wow. Yeah, you reminded me that. Thank you. Well, thank you so much, Marianne. This is an amazing gift with this intuitiveness and psychic perception, together with deep psychological knowledge and astrology, another system, and a lot of psychological systems, plus having gone through all these challenges. What better teacher than? And I love how you make your own system with numbers, with astrology, with numerology, with psychology. It's like, wow. Very synchronizing. Uniting different methods. Well, thank you so much, Mary. Again, if anyone would like to have this session with Mary, there's a couple of sessions that she talks about. I'll put a link for you below. There is a nice discount that she's offering to the AstroladaOfficial viewers, plus links to her courses, and you can be in touch together. Hopefully, you'll connect to the right people, and the right people will connect to you, their teacher and healer, to solve whatever has to be solved.
Elevate their self-worth. Escalate, I call it. Yeah.
Thank you
so
much.
Thank you so much, Lada. Much love to you.
Bye. Thanks.